Only in Kentucky can a sinkhole swallow $1 million worth of rare Corvettes overnight, in the exact same county that gave birth to the most iconic horror movie in American history. Hi, I'm Michael, and I'm learning a little bit more about Kentucky, one county at a time. All 120 of them. And today, I'm learning about Warren County. Located in south central Kentucky, Warren County spans 548 square miles of terrain split by distinct geological zones. In the north, the land is defined by tall limestone ridges cut out by the Green and Gasper rivers. To the south and southwest, the hills flatten out into fertile basins. The ground is a web of subterranean drainage systems, however, where water slowly dissolves the underlying limestone, carving out massive caverns. Archaeologists tracking regional river sites have uncovered structural tools and evidence of human presence dating back to the end of the last ice age. Modern settlement began along the water. In 1785, a pioneer named Andrew McFadden established McFadden Station on the northern bank of the Barren River. Positioned along the Cumberland Trace, the settlement quickly became a vital junction connecting travelers moving between the Green River settlements and Nashville. As the wilderness traffic increased, the state legislature officially carved out the territory in 1796, naming it Warren County to honor Major General Joseph Warren, the Revolutionary War hero who dispatched Paul Revere on his midnight ride. 2 years later, pioneers George and Robert Moore donated 2 acres of land near the local Big Spring to establish a permanent courthouse, creating the community of Bowling Green, which evolved into the modern city of Bowling Green. By the mid-1800s, Warren County was rapidly industrializing. In 1832, local merchants constructed a 1-mile portage railroad using mule-drawn iron cars to haul freight from the Barren River docks straight to the town square. By 1859, the heavy iron tracks of the Louisville and Nashville Railroad crossed the county, turning Bowling Green into a premier commercial hub. But the arrival of the 1860s shattered the region's prosperity. When the Civil War broke out, Kentucky pursued a policy of strict neutrality, but the state's position on the border made conflict inevitable. While the majority of Warren County residents favored the Union, the strategic value of the railroad and the river drew immediate military attention from the Confederates. In September of 1861, Confederate General Simon Buckner marched 4,500 troops into Bowling Green. Recognizing the military significance of the town's geography, the Confederates immediately began fortifying the prominent hills overlooking the downtown district. They built ramparts at Fort Vinegar on the peak of modern College Hill, constructed bastion fortifications at Fort C.F. Smith, Reservoir Hill. The Confederates were so secure in their network of high ground artillery positions that they dubbed Bowling Green the Gibraltar of the West. In November of 1861, rebel sympathizers held a sovereignty convention behind Confederate lines in Russellville. They established a provisional Confederate government for Kentucky, chose Bowling Green as their official state capital, and began operating out of the downtown commercial district. The occupation lasted only 5 months. In February of 1862, Union General Ulysses S. Grant captured Fort Henry and Fort Donelson just across the Tennessee line, completely outflanking the Confederate defensive position in Kentucky. As the Southern Army hastily evacuated, they launched a scorched earth retreat. Soldiers set fire to the L&N train depot, blew up the bridges crossing the Barren River, and burned down large portions of the downtown business district to keep supplies out of enemy hands. Union forces immediately occupied the smoking ruins, converting the local Presbyterian church into a military hospital and maintaining control of the county for the remainder of the war. The conflict left behind stories of survival that sound entirely fictional. Among Morgan's raiders was a Warren County native named Captain Thomas Henry Hines. Captured during a failed northern raid in 1863, Hines was locked inside a concrete cell in Columbus, Ohio. Now, using cutlery stolen from the prison dining hall, Hines spent weeks secretly scraping through the floorboards to access an air chamber beneath the cells. He and 5 other officers dug an escape tunnel into the prison yard, slipped past the guards, and Hines successfully made his way back home, later returning to Bowling Green to practice law and serve as a judge on the State Court of Appeals. After the war, the citizens of Warren County spent the late 19th century rebuilding their landscape. They constructed a grand brick courthouse in 1868 and capitalized on the expansion of the railroad to transform the region into a major exporter of timber, stone, tobacco, and strawberries. Education quickly became the county's next major industry. In 1884, the Southern Normal School relocated to Bowling Green. By 1906, the school's president, Henry Hardin Cherry, successfully campaigned to donate the private institution to the state, creating the Western State Normal School. In 1911, the university moved its campus to the peak of the old Civil War fortification site on Vinegar Hill. Renamed Western Kentucky University, the campus became universally known as The Hill, anchored by the neoclassical design of Van Meter Hall and the iconic bell tower of Cherry Hall. But the rapid growth of the university on the hill exacted a profound human cost on a historic neighborhood. Following emancipation in the 1860s, formerly enslaved men and women established a community known as Jonesville. Bordered by the railroad tracks and the base of the hilltop, Jonesville grew into a pretty tight-knit, self-sustaining African-American neighborhood. Over nearly a century, hundreds of residents built stone and frame homes, opened local grocery stores and other businesses, and established 2 prominent churches and an elementary school. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, Western Kentucky University began expanding its footprint down off the hilltop. Under the banner of federal urban renewal programs, the state systematically acquired the land, demolished the homes, and dismantled the entire neighborhood. By 1968, the historic community was pretty much entirely erased from the map. Today, major university athletic landmarks, including E.A. Diddle Arena and the Hutchins Industries L.T. Smith Football Stadium, sit directly on the site of Jonesville. In 1879, a girl named Lillian South was born in the county. Graduating from medical school in 1904, Dr. South opened a private practice in Bowling Green before becoming the first female state bacteriologist in the United States. Operating from a lab on 12th Street, she launched a relentless campaign to eradicate hookworm across Kentucky, developed new diagnostic testing methods. During the catastrophic Ohio River flood of 1937, Dr. South worked out of an unheated hotel in Louisville, personally distributing thousands of vaccines to completely avert a typhoid epidemic. Working in the exact same era was Ora Frances Porter. Graduating from the Tuskegee Institute School of Nursing in 1904 with personal recommendations from Booker T. Washington, Porter returned to Bowling Green to become one of the city's first registered African-American nurses. Faced with systemic segregation, Porter built a career providing private in-home care, specialized in managing typhoid outbreaks, and later leveraged her prominence to help found the George Washington Carver Community Center and the 1949 Interracial Commission. Meanwhile, a different kind of national transformation was brewing in the mind of a Bowling Green native named Duncan Hines. Born in 1880, Hines spent decades traveling the United States as a traveling printer salesman. Because the early automobile era offered few reliable options for roadside dining, Hines began keeping a meticulous personal notebook tracking the cleanliness and food quality of every restaurant he visited. In 1935, he self-published his findings in a guidebook titled Adventures in Good Eating. The book became an instant staple, transforming the county's hospitality standards by forcing roadside diners to earn the prestigious Duncan Hines seal of approval. By the 1950s, his name was licensed for the boxed cake mixes that still in grocery stores worldwide. But the county's most unique cultural collision took place inside the mouth of Lost River Cave. Geographically famous for its massive natural limestone arch, the cave served as a campground for 40,000 soldiers during the Civil War. In 1934, a local businessman named Jimmy Stewart cleared out the cavern floor and officially opened the Cavern Nightclub. It featured a full wooden dance floor, a massive stage, and an underground bar. The venue capitalized on the cave's natural 57-degree breeze. Billboard magazine officially designated it as the only air-conditioned nightclub in the United States, drawing in national acts like Dinah Shore and the NBC Orchestra to perform underground while the outside world sweltered in the summer heat. In 1953, a 5-year-old boy named John Carpenter moved to Bowling Green when his father took a position chairing the music department at WKU. Growing up in a log cabin just down the road from the university campus, decades later when he redefined the landscape of American horror filmmaking. In his 1978 cinematic masterpiece Halloween, the fictional sanitarium where Michael Myers escapes is explicitly named Smith's Grove. Later in the film, characters follow roads in the direction of Russellville. The physical, everyday geography of South Central Kentucky became the psychological footprint of a global cinematic empire. The post-World War II era brought a massive structural transition to the local economy. The completion of Interstate 65 and the Green River Parkway transformed the county from a rural agricultural economy into more of a major manufacturing corridor. The definitive economic shift occurred in June of 1981 when officially relocated its entire Chevrolet Corvette assembly plant from St. Louis to a refurbished facility in Bowling Green. The plant became the exclusive global manufacturer of the iconic American sports car. The National Corvette Museum opened its doors just across the interstate in 1994. But on the morning of February 12th, 2014, the county's karst geography violently collided with that modern industrial success. At 5:54 a.m., a massive subterranean collapse triggered a 40-foot wide, 30-foot deep sinkhole directly beneath the floor of the museum's iconic Sky Dome area. And within seconds, 8 rare, historic, one-of-a-kind Corvettes sank into the earth, buried beneath concrete slabs and tons of red clay. Instead of letting the disaster close their doors, engineers stabilized the spire structure, inserted a complex grid of steel micropiles deep into the bedrock, repoured the concrete floor, and restored the salvageable vehicles, turning the geological event into really one of the most popular permanent museum exhibits in the state. The first vehicle extracted was a 2009 ZR1 Blue Devil prototype, which incredibly started up and drove away under its own power. Others, like the historic 1992 1/millionth Corvette, were crushed beneath falling concrete slabs and required structural reconstruction. Today, Warren County stands as the 5th most populous county in Kentucky, with a population rapidly approaching 150,000 residents. Powered by the expanding footprint of WKU, major industrial investments like the multi-billion-dollar AESC electric vehicle battery gigafactory, and a highly diversified manufacturing sector, the county has evolved into the undisputed economic engine of South Central Kentucky. So, that's Warren County. What'd I get wrong this time?